I was watching a TikTok video the other day. I saw somebody talking about they make $250, $300,000 as an anesthesiologist. I was like, why? Where did I go wrong?
Mhm.
Is that real? Like, you can make that much money?
Yeah, actually, so there's 2 types of providers that can do anesthesia independently in the US, and one of those is a medical doctor who's an anesthesiologist, and then there's a nursing avenue to that profession as well. So I'm what's called a nurse anesthetist or a nurse anesthesiologist, meaning that I also get to do anesthesia, but just like different routes. And yes, it is true that you can make that much money. That's actually, depending on which type of provider you are, that's on the low end of things. So it is a very lucrative field. Yeah. I actually looked up some numbers before our
Okay,
interview today.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So on the low end for nurse anesthesiologists, depending on state, if you're working for a hospital, if you're an independent contractor, there are different work models.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere from $190,000 a year to $400,000 a year.
Okay.
And for anesthesiologists, physicians, it can be anywhere from, I saw today, like $280 a year to $600,000 a year.
Okay. But a good number of people could be easily making $500,000
Oh,
a year.
yeah.
Okay. How much do you make a year?
So at my current rate, taking about 10 weeks of vacation.
10 weeks of vacation?
Mhm.
You taking 2 months of vacation?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, go
2 and a
ahead.
half months. $294,000.
294, and that's with 10 weeks of vacation.
Mhm.
All right. That's dope.
Yeah, nice.
Where you be taking your vacations at? 'Cause I'm thinking
Right now,
like,
I'm not taking much vacation at all. Right now, my vacation is working on locum, but
yeah.
yeah. Most of the time, I've gone overseas. I've Thailand. I
Okay.
did Europe for a month once. Kenya. Yeah, like sometimes I
Okay.
go back home.
Gotcha. All right, there's gonna be some fellas in the comment section, trying to get Joy to sponsor something.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting. So that's wild. Like, that's a comfortable lifestyle, and that's honestly one of the reasons why I typically encourage people to consider,
Yeah.
like, STEM careers. So, for the people who are watching who may be curious,
Yeah.
so you do 4 years of undergrad, potentially if you go to BSN, Bachelor's
You
of
have to get
Science,
a Bachelor of Science in Nursing
okay, so have to get a Bachelor of Science of
Yes.
Nursing to be an
to
anesthesiologist,
be a nurse anesthetist or nurse anesthesiologist.
nurse anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 years undergrad, and then you said
2 years in the ICU.
2 years
You have to have
ICU,
the 2 years in order to apply for school.
and it has to be in the
It
ICU?
has to be in the ICU.
Okay, when you're in the ICU, what kinda, like, cases do you see? Like,
Yeah.
the worst of the worst, like gunshots, stabs,
Yeah. Depending
maybe
on which kind of ICU. So like, there are neuro ICUs, there's trauma ICUs, there's like cardiac ICUs.
yeah,
So any ICU experience, medical surgical ICU. So yeah, like people who have, motorcycle crashes to right after cardiac surgery to like for me it was a lot of strokes and like head trauma. So yeah, like once you've taken care of patients like that who tend to be like the most sick, like almost like having to like do life support, supporting people like on ventilators, like, making sure that they're alive essentially. Once you've done a lot of that kind of work, that kind of tees you up for anesthesia school, which then you get into like the medical science of all those things and
okay,
really get into the training.
and that's 3 years.
That's 3 years.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thanks for breaking that down. It's been a lot of work, 9 years of education.
Yeah,
Has it been worth it for you?
absolutely. Yeah. It
Okay,
has. Just based off of like my life experience, I might be wrong about this, but I think I have like the coolest job in the world. It's like you get to pilot the human body for a living. It's really cool science. Like, every time you put a patient to sleep, they react differently. People are very different in just the way their bodies work. So
yeah,
my work is really rewarding. And then it's also really rewarding in terms of like my income too. So like it's for me a really good balance. Sometimes very stressful. We talked before. I say like my job is 98% just like chilling, like once you get the patient to sleep, they're breathing the gas, they're doing okay. You sit there and like read a book or shop or whatever it is you want to
yeah,
do, but then like 2%, like what we really get paid off or paid for is that 2% of time when like stuff's going down and like you really need to like save this person's life. And that part's really rewarding sometimes too. So yeah, like I would say absolutely.
gotcha.
It's been worth it.
No, that's dope, and I remember our original conversation when we were talking, and you were like, "We get paid not to put patients to sleep, but
They
to
get
make sure
paid
that
to
they
wake
wake up."
Yeah.
And that hit me like, "Dang, that's real." Like,
Going to sleep is easy. You can put anybody to sleep.
they better wake up or like,
Yeah.
"It's my family, we fighting." Like,
Yeah.
that's wild.
It's like
Okay.
waking up safe and sound and like ready to go back home to the people who love them. Cause that's really what it is like people are trusting you with their lives. Like when a person is asleep, they're the most vulnerable that they ever will be. They don't even control their own like functions. You do. So yeah, it's a really high burden of care. And I think it takes a specific like type of person to like be able to do it and like to like do it.
What does that type of person look like? Is it somebody that's like, obviously they have to be okay with like, when you say 2 years in the ICU, you gotta be okay with like seeing blood and guts and like all
You
kinds of
know,
crazy stuff, I'm assuming?
people say that to me and I disagree because actually my first day in the ICU when I was in nursing training, I almost passed out when I saw someone had a procedure done. And I remember the ICU nurse telling me, "Guess you're not going to be an ICU nurse." And she was wrong. So
Yeah.
I feel like just like persevering help, like
Okay.
was the key.
I
I
like
didn't
that.
like blood and gore either. Like I've done a lot of things in nursing that I never thought I would have to do that were like, you know, sometimes I'm like I'm intubating a patient and like dealing with people's mouths is not pretty. That part is not fun, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do the job. Like it's gross, but if you can
Yeah.
overcome that.
I'm happy that you said that because I think a lot of people that don't know the insights, like, they just think, and I'm pretty sure a teacher, like, if
Yeah.
I was a if I go to a class and I talk to a group of students
Mhm.
or just people in general, I'm like, "Yo, if you don't think you like blood, you probably shouldn't be a
Not
anesthesiologist or a
not
doctor,"
true.
but
They had to put a chair behind me because I literally almost actually fell down and passed out the first time that
interesting.
I saw a procedure done. But I mean, look at me today.
How
It's not
long
necessarily true.
how long have you been doing it for?
So oh gosh, now you're making me count. This is my 5th year
Okay.
as a CRNA, as a nurse anesthesiologist, and I've been a nurse since 2013. So, oh my gosh, 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got a
Wow.
decade under your
Yeah.
belt.
Okay, I'm
Nice.
an OG now.
Congrats. Yes. Well, I'm glad also that you mentioned that story because,
Yeah,
like, you gotta prove the haters wrong, let them know.
that's right. She
You
said
gotta
that
go
to me, and I was like,
you gotta
okay,
go
we'll
back,
see.
pull up on her like,
Yeah.
"What what'd you say?" Alright.
We'll
Cool.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, so, hey, real quick, I want you to kinda walk me through the day of, like, an anesthesiologist. Like, Joy, you
Yeah.
wake up, get dressed, go to the,
Yeah. It's early days.
like, 5 AM kinda day?
Yeah, like I wake up at 5.
Okay.
Back when my workout game was strong, I woke up at 4. Um, work out, get ready, go to work.
Yeah.
Usually OR start time is like 7 o'clock. Sometimes you get like a 6 o'clock. Sometimes you get a 5 o'clock. Those are rare. Or 8 o'clock. Those are also rare. So 7 o'clock about start time. You work till around 3 o'clock on a really, really bad day.
Okay.
Most days I'm done with work around 1:30, 2 o'clock. On my really lucky days, I'm done with work around 10:30 in the morning, and then I go back home. Then when you get there at 7, you walk into an empty OR. Sometimes you turn on the lights because you're the first person there. You set up your airway, you draw up your drugs for the first case of the day. You see your patient, you talk to them, ask them about their health history, and then you give them some medicine to help them feel comfortable in the pre-operative area.
Not even trying to put them to sleep, just,
Not
like,
even trying
making
to
them
put them
feel
to sleep
comfortable?
because, believe it or not, it's just like a regular Wednesday for me, but it's
Yeah.
probably like the biggest day of that person's life because they're having a really big surgical procedure, or even if it's a minor one, people tend to feel anxiety that they're going to go to sleep. Most people who feel anxiety about surgery feel more anxiety about going to sleep than they do about the actual surgical procedure, right? So we give medications to help with that. You know, develop a rapport with the patient, and then roll them back to the room on their stretcher.
Yeah.
When you get to the room, you put some monitors on to get their blood pressure, their heart rate, their pulse oxygenation. If there's other monitors, you put them on. Then you give them medication to go to sleep. Usually it's IV medication. The IV medication puts them to sleep. If it's a general anesthesia case, you drop a tube, you hook them up to your ventilator, make sure everything's going well. You give them more meds, and then you just have them breathe gas through the procedure. And then at the end of the procedure, you give reversals for whatever it is you need to reverse. Like some patients, we induce paralysis, so you got to reverse that.
Okay.
And then you let them breathe back, and you wake them, and then you take them to recovery. I feel like in terms of healthcare,
Yeah.
nurse anesthesiology, it's one of, if not the profession with like the highest return on investment. And that's why I chose it. Like you go to school, you do what you need to do, you come out and you have a great life. And so I would absolutely encourage it for anyone who's thinking about getting into health.
Gotcha.
We need
And
more.
it's like what, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, kinda?
I mean, I've had jobs where, like, I'm lucky if I work 20 hours. I've had jobs where I work 30. Yeah, it just depends on where you get into.
Do you need a bachelor's degree in anything or in, like, certain
So
things?
for nurse anesthesiology, it has to be a Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
Okay, alright, so
Because you're
I'm
thinking
not
about a
going
career
back. I'm not
switch.
going back. I'm done with school at this point, that's
Come
what the
on, you
Lord
could be a
has
CRNA. You'll like it.
nah, the Lord has different
He
plans for
does
me,
have it.
so that's not my calling, but I want you all to think about that.